All right, we're going to get some reaction then from regarding the Reserve Bank Governor's decision to cut the repo rate by 25 basis points. And we're going to speak to Maudi Lentsoane, Managing Director of Lehumo Investments. Thank you very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I was listening to my colleague, Kumete, speaking to economists just after the announcement by Lesetja Kganyago, and they both felt that the Reserve Bank could have been a little bit more aggressive. Would you agree with that stance? I heard that they would have preferred had the cut been 50 basis points instead. What do you say?
Look, I think the Reserve Bank has been aggressive, for the larger part of this year in response, to this crisis that we're facing. I think they've done pretty well, and if you look, this year alone, we're now sitting at almost 3.5%, or rather 300 basis points that we've already cut interest rates by. So, listening to Lesetja Kganyago, also indicating the fact that they've had to bring forward some of those cuts, some of the cuts that were supposed to take place in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter. They've had to front load them, which shows that the Reserve Bank has been very aggressive. And I must say, I agree with them. They have been very aggressive. You compare with the number of other central banks, they've also engaged in the bond purchasing to ensure that it's not only the interest rates that they are targeting, but they're also coming up with the non-conventional measures to try and help the ailing economy.
Now, the Reserve Bank had indicated at the last announcement that there was still a little wiggle room to adjust rates, which is what we saw then today, but that they would continue to be cautious. So we can take this as a cautious decision then, wouldn't we?
It certainly is. It also gives them a bit more room for them to, to more ammunition to be able to release should the need be, because you also don't want to rush into the zero mark where you find yourself, running out of ammunition should, the situation be. So I think it's a very approach that the reality is, the interest rates not something that has an impact immediately, something that would be felt over time. So I think, some of the interest rates that they've cut in the past are only cutting in benefiting the economy now. So benefiting the economy to see the good benefits of those interest rates, So it's one that is going to gradually filter into the system. But also the other reality is the fact that the interest rates or the monetary policy alone cannot fix the problem. That we will need the other side as well to also come into play, the fiscal policy to also be implemented at the same aggressive pace to be able to mitigate some of the challenges that we're facing.
You say that, of course, it is, good for the economy, and what will be good for the economy then is good news for consumers, and eventually it will trickle down to benefit consumers. I was just looking at some of the reactions on social media, and of course some consumers there being quite happy about it. What is the best advice, though, to debtors who are perhaps making repayments? A lot of them quite happy about the fact that, those repayments will be lesser than what they're used to. But, what best advice is there at this time for consumers when that benefit does actually hit the consumers?
The message is do not indulge in further, loans or borrowing. This is an opportunity. After the house and saying, I've accumulated so much debt, and here, the Reserve Bank is coming in and giving me a window of opportunity to reduce some of those debts. So you would have done a great job. Part of, the first thing, is to clean up the debt. Make sure that you get rid of all the unnecessary debt that I think many South Africans are known to have, accumulated over the past couple of years. We're known to be an overly indebted society, and sometimes unnecessarily so. There are those good debts one should have, and there are those that are just unnecessary. I think this is an opportunity to service those debts and ensure that you only really, you continue with the debts that are a necessity to you.
Yeah. What are you expecting the next time we hear from the Reserve Bank Governor, when we hear from Lesetja Kganyago? Are you expecting more cuts?
I am not expecting more cuts going forward. Even if you look at today's decision, it was not a unanimous decision. As a matter of fact, I think 3 voted for a 25 basis point cut, whereas 2 of those members said an unchanged. So that tells you already that we are very close to that end of the cutting cycle. If we're not already there, there's probably a couple of basis points left, but there's certainly very small room left for more aggressive cutting. So that's what I expect. I think going forward, they are going to be very data dependent and be very cautious, because they want to remain with some ammunition to have should the situation dictate. And also the fact that you don't want to cut too aggressively, because you're discouraging those that are saving. Those that are saving needs to end those interests. And at some point, there has to be a striking balance between those that are saving and continuing to save, allowing them to still be able to earn a reasonable interest. And those that are borrowing, of course, that needs to be assisted in terms of their servicing of their debts.
All right, Maudi, thank you very much for giving us your time on SA Today. We really do appreciate it. Maudi Lentsoane, Managing Director of Lehumo Investments, thank you for your time.